I think there's basically three things that we figured out from this. These are the this is my last slide, and the three lessons learned about why freemium seems to work for us, and what are the required conditions, I think, where I would recommend freemium to a different business, which means that it's not going to work for everyone. There's plenty of really legitimate businesses that probably don't have some of these three things, and they shouldn't be freemium. The first is you need a great long-term retention rate. The reason that's crucial is if you don't have a great long-term retention rate, you have to keep paying the customer acquisition cost over and over and over again. If you have a great long-term retention rate, then you pay the customer acquisition cost, and then you kind of get this exponential growth of users, because once you've actually paid to acquire someone, you've got them for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. You don't have to pay for that again. And the longer they stay on, the more they tell their friends, and the more new users you get. So the long-term retention rate is key. And this first point is fundamentally not true for a lot of types of business. For example, if you're making a game of some sort, you're probably not going to have a great long-term retention rate, because people will download the game, and even if it's the best game in the universe, like God of War 3, you'll play it extensively for, I don't know, I think it says I've played it for 18 hours now, but I'm almost done. And then when I'm done, I'm not going to play it again. Well, maybe once more on hard difficulty level. But after that, I'm definitely not going to play it again. And so that would be a really bad freemium business. What's a much better business is exactly what they do, which is just charge me a lot of money right up front, to use it. The second really important point is you need a product that increases in value over time. You need to get that conversion rate up over time. The way that we do this at Evernote is, I was thinking about this purely as a user. So forget about me having a job at Evernote, just as a user. I thought, a couple of days after I started using Evernote, if someone came to me and said, hey, how much money would I have to give you for you to just permanently lose everything in your Evernote account? It'll be gone forever, you'll never be able to get it back. How much is that worth to you? 2 or 3 days after I started using it, I've got some web clips and other stuff in there. I would have probably said, I don't know, give me 20 bucks. Times were tough back then anyway. It's probably worth about 20 bucks to me. A few months afterwards, let's say 3, 4, 5 months after I started using it, someone asked me the same question. I would have probably felt, well, my second brain is probably worth, I don't know, maybe it's worth the same as my laptop. Maybe it's worth a few $1,000s, $3,000, let's say. Worth about what my MacBook is worth. Now I've been using it for 2 years. If you ask me right now, how much is my memory, my Evernote account worth to me? I have 2 years of my life in there. Everything I've done, 2 years of my life is in there. It's worth as much as my car. And I have a nice car. And it's worth as much as that, easily. A few years from now, I'm going to use it for another, say, 5 years. It's going to be worth as much as my house. I mean, the point is the perceived value of this goes up the longer you use it. Not the price. I'm not going to pay any more for it. But the perceived value will go up until pretty quickly it's the most valuable thing you have. And again, that's not true of a lot of other business models. And if that's not true of your business, then freemium may not be the right approach for you. But for other businesses, it is true for. And of course, the last one is low variable costs. So it is a numbers game. You've got to make sure that you get to gross margin really, really quickly. Because until you get to gross margin, basically in the life of a startup, when you're here, before you've gotten to gross margin break even, and you got to be honest about what's in those costs. Before you've gotten here, you will go out of business faster if you're successful in bringing on more users, right? Like before you hit gross margin profitability, you got nothing basically, because even if your marketing is wildly successful, you sign up another 10 million users, that just means you're going to run out of money faster. Once you're past that point, once you're gross margin profitable, then you can survive with scale. Then it's just a matter of getting another 10 million users. That's easy. So you need to have low variable costs. For us, the variable costs are low for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's because we don't pay for SEM or any of that kind of stuff. That stuff drives up your costs like crazy. We don't do it. But also just the way we've architected things. So the crazy investment that we made in all of the native versions that we wrote is actually probably a really good investment. Not only because people use it much more and the retention is much better when you have native software, but because our server costs are actually much lower, because the vast majority of the time, 90% of the time that someone does something in Evernote, they're actually doing it on their local machine. It was handled in the local hardware with the local CPU, and it's only hitting our servers to do synchronization, kind of in the background and sort of low priority threads. And so compared to like Flickr or something, or Facebook, where every single time you do anything on Facebook, anyone views anything, you do anything, it's hitting their servers, it's generating server load. For us, maybe it's only 5% of that, which is actually, it's more engineering costs up front to do it, but it's a lot less variable costs later on, and that's key to getting to that gross margin profitability and making it successful. So I think if you have those three things, you got a real solid shot at freemium. If not, there's plenty of other perfectly legitimate business models. So thank you very much. And I'm not sure how much time I have left, but 2 questions.
So just to clarify, I think you answered it with the native question, with the native set architecture, but in your use of, when you talk about somebody being active user, since the product description is that you never are going to purge my account, you're theoretically hosting content that I might put on there as a new user and then not come back. So I'm not in your language,
Right.
when I do that, I'm not an active user.
Correct.
But you still have hosting costs.
Yeah.
Or storage costs.
Well, just storage costs, and those are basically free because we pay to get the bits onto the hard drives, and we pay for the backups. But if you're not changing them, you know, it's just like, I mean, that cost is trivial. It's basically electricity cost. When you're active, when you do stuff, then that triggers, you know, new networking, new CPU, new drives, new backup. You know, administrators have to look at it. So an inactive user, I mean, it's not accurate to say that doesn't cost us anything. But if our 9 cents per month per active user cost also includes all of the full cost for inactive users, the inactive users contribute probably less than 1/2 of 1 cent to that. So it's really manageable if you do the architecture correctly.